day.
I didn't print an agenda. That's what I get for not printing an agenda. Emily, you're up.
I'm up.
So, again, not so much
Can I
about,
comment on the exercise?
oh, yes, absolutely, please do.
Well, I thought it was a good thought-provoking exercise, and Marcel, I really appreciate the depth that you put into your response. What I found it, the relationship part is the hard part of the giving. And I think it's also maybe my personality or how I look at things. The suggestions that I made, there is an opportunity for relationship to grow, but relationship is implied, but relationship also has to be invited. It sounds like Bashir was welcome the rides and the friendship that Marcella could offer, but I feel like sometimes, like one of my suggestions was that that the money be used to help someone who's aging out of foster care, and but do they provide some of those kids mentors? Is there an opportunity to be a mentor for someone like that? Can you be invited into that situation?
Yeah. I don't know. I would get an echo from the. Is that me? Am I picking up my own echo? So. So can you say more about? You said the relationship is the hard part of giving.
Well, for the parameters of your assignment I think it was the hard part of giving. I mean, I support causes that are helping individuals because they seem to have the tools that I don't have, the skills to do those kinds of things. You know, and I feel like we have to be invited into a relationship. I'll just use my ESL example. I could not help in the ESL program, but Elaine Adams called me one day and twisted my arm to be a conversation partner, and I've become a close friend and grandmother to the family that I was assigned. But I was, after doing the lessons, then we became family. She invited me into a relationship with her. We become so close. So I think sometimes that's how things evolve. You help one way, and then it invites relationship can do more.
So talk about your what you have down here. Yeah.
I have it in my hand. I'm an advocate for a women's storybook project in Texas. Have you ever heard of it? They connect incarcerated women with their children. The women read books. They have to earn their way into the program, and for X number of weeks, these women they'll read a book. And it's recorded. It used to be recorded, now it's uploaded. But then this is sent to their children, and it helps the women, incarcerated women, maintain relationship with their children. And the one child said, one of the stories of, how he tells about you tell your story. The child took his when they had parent day at school, he took the recording. He was able to take the recording of his mother to have a mom with him at school. And the research is showing that women that participate in programs like this have a lower recidivism rate. And last year when I went to their annual luncheon, this young woman spoke, and she was just absolutely powerful. She did her term in prison, was determined to have a drug-related charge. She was clean, she was determined to make it work. She didn't have the money to pay her fines and had to go back to prison. She served her term. She's back in the community. She's with her family. She's making a strong go of it. She is giving back by a program where it's helping the daughters get to a prison to visit their mothers to maintain these kinds of connections. And I thought that, here's this, what she's working a job, she's doing this other work. Wouldn't it be nice to provide her family with rainy day security? Now, I don't have a personal relationship with this young woman, but there are people at Storybook Project who are in contact and communication with her all the time. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to take a family like that, that type of insecurity, or the car goes out, they're getting to their job, but then they have that unexpected expense. Wouldn't it be nice to provide a rainy day fund that they could draw on? The other one I suggested was to look for a team that is out of foster care, because they're thrown into the system, sometimes have no one to support them, help them, and a lot of them are not given the outside support that they need. And it's an opportunity to invite relationship there.
Okay. And what do you think about like I appreciate the idea of kind of your mental thought process of the approach to your philosophy of engaging into it, how you framed it. But this week, as you were thinking through it, what was how was your experience of working through this idea of being granted $1,000 to work with?
Oh, I give them a moment to do that.
What's that?
I said, it's fun. It's fun to give away money. I've always envied people that have been able to do that. You would the family here at church, but the Nallen family, and he started NI, and they have a family foundation, and the family meets and they decide where they can spread their wealth into the community. One of the things Bill Nallen they funded was the tuba chair for the Boston Symphony, because he was a tuba player in college and high school. And I think it's so good to be able to give.
Yeah.
I remember a time I was on a trip with people from Hope, and the announcement came that we were going to get X money back from the IRS. And Julie Albrecht stood up on the bus and said, now look at that. We didn't expect to have that money. Here we're on a trip. We could all give that money to Hope. And everyone, I would bet 20% of the people on that bus did give that extra check to Hope.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea of sharing those funds, this exercise is an itty bitty microcosm of the work of our endowment committee, the Generation to Generation Endowment Committee. When we have funds to give, we solicit grant applications for folks to request larger gifts, and that work is laborious, application process laborious, the discernment of how much we usually, if you have, let's say $10,000, the grant application is for, applications total for like $100,000. So how do you navigate through that? And that makes it a lot more challenging, because the needs always outweigh the resources. And but I think that leaning into an exercise like this gives us, what my hope is that it gives us the opportunity to just slow down enough to look around our neighborhoods and to pay attention to what needs may or may not exist around us. And I need to pull up. So Reeve did this. I still have his. I can pull it up. I'll show you later. I can print it out and give it to you.
He may not want to share with me.
Well, he did it in a group, so it was a group project. And
Marcelo, my other one was to I was real moved when we had the stories program. I couldn't think of the name of
Sacred
it.
Stories.
There wasn't that agency that helps those people. That would be another thing to pay the legal costs for someone who is seeking to have.
Yeah, undocumented stories.
Yeah, is the name of the organization?
The project was called Undocumented
But that group that's here in Austin that are helping those people navigate the legal system, that's where I'd like to adopt a family.
Yeah, Texas Impact is also doing that work as well. So let's move on to this letter. Did y'all get a chance to read the letter that I sent?
I didn't know.
Okay. So Marcelo, the origin, man, I've got this lazy Susan of a brain, so forgive me because sometimes it gets rusty and it doesn't spin around on time. The faith tradition that you come out of is not Presbyterian, correct?
Correct.
Right. So in the Presbyterian Church, we have our local congregation, which is a Presbyterian congregation. The regional body is called the Presbytery, and there are 119 congregations within our presbytery that form together to form Mission Presbytery. And then there are 11 presbyteries that form a super regional body called the Synod, which is Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Texas. And then they form a national body called the General Assembly. So this last weekend, our presbytery, the 119 churches gathered together 3 times a year to have a presbytery meeting. And they're able to do as a presbytery mission and ministry on a regional collective basis that most churches can't do on an individual basis. And this last week, they sent out this letter, and in a denominational church, based on the ways in which your governing bodies are funded, is through what's called a per capita. And so we have X number of members.
Commonly known as the head tax.
Yes, it's the head tax is people like me would
Don't like that.
we don't like it. I arrived because it connotes a negative image, and probably deservedly so, because of poor communication. That's what it is, poor communication. But that being said, the per capita goes to support not only the local mission of our regional body, but the denomination as a whole on an international level, all the way down to our local regional level. So when we send missionaries around, or mission workers around the world, when we have an office, we have a Presbyterian Office for Public Witness in DC that is our lobby group. We have an office that is at the United Nations and is able to advocate on an international level at the United Nations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, our per capita is $9.80 per member. So the amount that Hope Presbyterian Church pays towards its per capita is somewhere around $3,600, somewhere in that ballpark per year. And one thing I learned from this letter is that other presbyteries, I actually thought, I learned that I thought $9.80 was what the denomination itself assessed, and everybody paid equally. What I learned from this letter is that the presbyteries charge differently or allocate differently per capita. Some charge $25, some charge up to $75, et cetera. So the letter, the end result of the letter is we're asking the local congregations like Hope to pay more than the minimum of $9.80. So that's the end result of the letter, of which I fully support. That's not the point of why I bring this letter to us. The point of the reason why I bring the letter to us to review is now at the conclusion of having read this book and of all the things that we have discussed about the strategies and the theology of rich church, poor church, if we were to apply the thought process of communication and et cetera, that is amplified or elevated in that book and apply those concepts to this letter, how would we grade this letter? What letter grade would we give it? And I know you haven't read it yet, Marcelo. And if you want to give it a quick one-over, great. But Emily?
Well, a B minus.
A what?
A B minus C plus, because it starts out with saying the things that Mission Presbytery is doing and accomplishing. Right, if I remember recalling it correctly? No, doesn't it start and tell the projects that they went on? No, this is it.
It's in fact, yeah. It just starts, I mean, third sentence.
There.
You share equal responsibility with each other.
Then yeah. But where? Well, then they got a D. I mean, but when you consider I guess that's what I started, when they get down to the end of the letter, they should have put at the beginning of the letter. What Mission Presbytery does and acts.
Oh,
That's how they should have
Yeah, at the
led.
bottom of that first
This is
page,
what your 980 is helping to do.
yeah, at the bottom of the first page, you get some bullet points there of a few things, right?
Yeah. So that, I guess they're D or an F. On the second page.
On the second page, midway, it says out of a presbytery of 119, 10 do not support Presbytery's mission at all. We want you to step up.
So when they calculate this, it's whatever the church membership is, whatever they gave to the mission, they just divide it out by how many members, and that's what their per capita is. Is that how they calculate all this?
So Hope Presbyterian Church, I can't remember what exactly we reported in 2022, but let's say we're 250 members, so 250 times $9.80 is what our per capita amount is that we pay. Siri, what is 250 times 9.8?
250 times 9.8 is 2,450.
So yes, we send $2,500 to Mission Presbytery.
So when they so I'm sorry, did Hope like decide how much they're going to send? Do individual people decide how much they're going to send? It's
All right,
Hope's.
so when we go, right, we're in the excuse me. Our pledge dedicate, so we're in the stewardship program and the second Sunday of November, the members of the church submit a pledge card, as in what they pledge to give for the year of 2024. From that, we build our annual budget, and part of that, a big portion of that is the benevolence money that we set that we're going to send to charitable organizations. And a part that money we give to the presbytery.
Gotcha.
$2,500 from our budget will go to pay the minimum.
I think, Marcel, are you asking, like, how did they come up with that $9 figure? That's what I'm.
No, I don't think that's it. He was asking,
Kind of my question was like they give figures for how much certain congregations give. I don't know if that's the proper term, how much congregations give. But it's also doing per capita I feel like median would be a better way of doing that, because you could have a very rich benefactor in a given church who donate a bunch of money, and then they give it. But if every church does it the same way as Hope does, where you pool all of the benevolence money and then you distribute it out however you want, it would be a little bit different. I don't know. Do you have to report what your like benevolence offerings are to the mission?
No,
So like they have no idea what percentage of like the offerings that you have are going to I don't know what the proper term was, sorry.
but you're absolutely doing great. So the denomination itself, no one outside, no one really no one sees the books of our church in that regard. But annually, we do submit a report indicating how many members we have on the rolls. So
So that's all they have access to. They have access to nothing else. But
pretty much that's it. So there is a church here in town that has 1,800 members. And so not only do they pay $9.80 for 1,800 members, but that church actually pays more than double of that to the presbytery. And it's great. So churches that are financially more wealthy are able to give a whole lot more money than other churches. And there are some churches that are financially more wealthy who choose purposefully to not give the money to the presbytery or the church, the larger church, because they're angry at some thing, so they withhold their money. And church members do the same thing locally at the church. Well, I don't like the way that we're doing this, so I'm not going to give my money to the local church, or I'm going to give it specifically to the coffee program. But I don't want, so yes, we pool all our money together, and the leadership of our church allocates it and funds the mission of our church appropriately according to what we set out as the mission of our church.
Okay.
But it is all pooled together. And, go ahead.
so I was going to say there could be like multiple, like I know there's a big disparity in this letter just from like the quick glance I gave it, where some are giving 66 per capita, some are giving 9 like minimum. Could it also be that some people are not giving that money to the mission because they're committing all of their funds into their direct community around them, and then others are giving all of that money or the vast majority of it because they're not taking the time to actually invest in their community? They're just like, lump sum, here you go do whatever you want with this money. We're not going to worry about what's in our community right now, and take this money and take the time to apply it where we think it needs to go just in our direct community. We're just going to give it to you and assume that you're going to do the best thing.
Yeah,
Like, is it possible that happens?
Yeah, you're pretty close. And I think you can look at that. Individuals do the same thing also,
Yeah.
right? So, but yes, pretty close, right? So the next presbytery over, let's say that they allocate $25. The next regional body over allocates $25 per member. And there are some churches who will just pay the $25 and just say, do with it what you will. And some churches within that regional body will say, well, we're not going to give you anything. We don't like you anymore. And they get on the naughty list. And there are churches here in the city of Austin, Presbyterian church in the city of Austin, that don't give any money to our regional body, the presbytery, for the very same reason of we don't like you. And you don't, and they're short-sighted in not being able to see how they benefit from the cooperative mission opportunities through the presbytery. So the same thing happens here, right? Emily gets mad at me and she decides, I don't like Josh anymore. And because I don't like,
Send you an email.
because I don't like Josh anymore, and I'm not going to tell Josh I don't like Josh anymore, I'm not going to give another dime to this church.
He's just going to ghost us.
And I'm not going to remove my name from the church, but I'm just not going to tell anybody. I'm going to keep showing up, but I'm not going to give them any more money. And yet there'll come a day and when she's in the hospital or there's something significant and I show up and I still love her and I still provide for her. And she's grateful that there's a pastor that's still in her life that is tending to her and serving her. And that's at the loving support of everyone else in the community who's there financially supporting the ministries from which she is benefiting. But that's a short-sightedness that I think a lot of folks can fall into the trap of. Same thing happens with Social Security as well. A lot of folks get really angry at Social Security, and I'm so mad, and I'm like, and yet, thank God, they say that I was able to get my Social Security in there when I needed it. So, all that being said, the theme of this letter, part of what I think that, and y'all can study it a little bit more. Again, the thing that I elevate up to the class, and it came very timely at the end of all that we've talked about, is the concept of what they're asking for. I am in agreement with, but as I read this letter, it really upset me, and I would be embarrassed to have my name put on this letter. I would be embarrassed, and if I were on this committee, I would resign. This is, and here are some of the reasons why. This letter is, yes, this letter provides. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's
oh,
what,
no.
was the details, that was
Oh,
stuck in my mind. The
I'm
second
sorry.
page, he sent it to us in the email.
The printout version is missing for them. The letter has a shaming element to it. It's not constructive for the purpose of building up the body of Christ. It is, it does not build a vision or mission. And it is a bomb that gets dropped. And what it has failed to do, at least the leadership of this team has failed to do, is 6 to 7 months preceding this letter has done nothing to encourage or promote why we should and make its case as to why we should consider giving more than the minimum. It is just ringing the alarm bells and saying, give us your money. And shame on you for putting us in this situation. And I have a real challenge with it. For example, 30 churches are paying their minimum, but nothing above that. If your church is in that category, we prevail upon you to do more, above more than the mere obligation. And you know, our church is one of those churches, and that is not very kind. That's not a kind. And this letter offers really, it does in the first paragraph. There is some sort of thank you, etc. But it is not. There's not a thank you even for. It doesn't take into consideration churches actually struggling, churches that lay off congregation, lay off members of the church. I mean, lay off churches, etc., etc., etc. So it just walked. And what y'all did not get to see.
You turn it down, it's really loud.
Oh, sorry. Oh, he's talking to this.
Sorry, that was me.
Well, then, this is not fictional.
No. And you'll see the full letter in the email sent out to the class. Was their presentation at the Presbyterian meeting yesterday, which was more egregious than this. And quite frankly, to me, insulting. And so were the other 3 elders that were from our church with us.
And see
And
what I remembered the good part that stuck in my mind,
Right.
the things that Mission Presbytery was doing, and that's why I thought they had led with that.
Yeah.
No.
Was that recorded somewhere?
Yeah, I'll find, yeah, it was. I'll find the clip and I'll send you the timestamp of where it was.
Okay.
researcher right here. Oh, I would love to watch that.
I want to get my stuff from the source.
No, thank
That's
you.
good. That's
Trust
good.
but verify. He's a product of his generation. Anyways, I thought this was really timely to come at this point at the end of our at the conclusion of our time when we've been exploring these concepts and of what makes a rich church poor church. And at the end of that report, it was asked from the floor of the meeting. Ultimately, the 2024 budget for our presbytery is being balanced to the tune of $300,000 out of reserves, and they're able to, if that were a trend to continue, they'll be out of reserves around 5 to 7 years, if that is a trend that is continue. And so the question was, not only how long could we sustain at this level of taking from the reserves, but what's the plan otherwise? And there was not an answer, there was not an encouragement, and it was simply a revert back to, y'all need to give us more money. And that is not in the terms of what we have been talking about, that was a poor church mindset versus a rich church mindset, and within the framework of what we've been talking about for the past couple of months. And I look forward to find the timestamp and I'll send it to you, along with the treasure hunt that I was talking about earlier. Let's take the final couple of minutes and just offer any final takeaways from this, from what you didn't know you were getting into, to any particular takeaway, any takeaways from the last 2 months, something that has resonated with you, any final thoughts on this class before we bring it to a close?
I thought it was very interesting. I guess allowed me to look at some things in a different perspective than I had before.
Okay, thank you.
I'm curious, as you've been doing the town hall settings, I don't think we're a rich church. I don't think we're a poor church. I think we're in a balance mode there, and I think we're leaning, especially since the Matthew 25 initiative started. I think we're leaning more toward a rich church mentality myself. I'm wondering if you're feeling this with what you're hearing from other congregation members as you're having your town hall meeting.
I felt way more comfortable with that in the 8 to 10 months prior and leading up to March 2020. And I felt very good, even though we were still in debt. Where we were logically as a rich church mindset, as the whole of our community, and where we were positioned to go before the disruption. And I think because of where we were then, we weathered that storm in a very unique way that many of my colleague churches did not. And I thank God for that. Where we are now, I have to remind myself, and it is a hard reality for me, if I'm being honest, I have to remind myself, we are, like everyone else, still rebuilding. We did take some step backs from where we were leading up to the COVID pandemic. We aren't where we were, and we do still have some rebuilding to do. And that's a hard reality for me to accept. And that's part of what I'm learning through the town hall meetings, because that's the litmus test, the barometer that I'm learning is that we're not quite where I thought we were. They're not expressing that explicitly, but thematically, that's what I'm pulling from these town hall meetings. And that's helpful in giving me some insight to where we go next. And that pairs also with the vision and mission of where God might be calling us. And I think we have some more tuning to do as a community regarding that. I'm curious about how the congregation will respond to the sermon series of this month and what we're planning for next month. Both of them are 1-2 punch within each other in a larger theme of stewardship. And I'm curious to see not so much the results of what the stewardship program looks and yields, but spiritually, how that might yield for us spiritually. I'm hoping that I'm curious to see what that will yield for us. We've never spent this much time purposefully, overtly talking out loud about stewardship this month and with what we're about to talk about in November. And when did we start designing all this? March, February?
Last year.
Yeah. So Emily and I have been working on this for half a year now. And so all of this has been very much by on purpose, by design to get to where we are. And part of this, what I didn't know then, part of this rebuilding. So I don't know if that answered your question. There's been nothing explicit or overt, but in that barometer, I would agree with your assessment.
Yeah, I'm praying that maybe even if we saw more pledging units, even if the finances of our country right now have hit everybody hard. But if we saw more people willing to make a commitment at any level, to me, that would be we're growing.
Yeah.
That would be showing growth.
Right.
And coming up on the message about Jubilee. You know, we're coming up on our 50th anniversary. And I had heard some talk among people that as soon as there was going to be a capital campaign for reserve to take care of the broken air conditioners, and then I personally don't think we need to go there. I think, we need a sabbatical. We need to regroup. And maybe we need to have a celebratory focus for, not that, I don't know how you, no one's ever, did they ever get to a Jubilee? I don't think it's even written in the Bible that they ever really celebrated Jubilee. So, but if we could have a thank offering, maybe something that doesn't come to hope at all, but if we had a community outreach thank offering for our 50 years in God's ministry, wouldn't that be a neat thing to work toward?
Well, that's in the books. That's in the works.
I hope so.
That's
I'm not on the committee. I'm not volunteering to be on the committee.
I signed up.
No,
So-
I just email Jocelyn when things come to my mind.
Thank you for that. I want to make sure that we get on. Marcelo, Diane, Melanie, anything that you want to say that's been kind of a takeaway or insights from our time together?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's you, Marcelo. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, no, I'm still thinking about that letter. Sorry.
Send me your thoughts and questions. I want to give some plugs to a few things for both of y'all and to anybody who watches the recording later, which there may be a few. Next Sunday, Reformation Sunday, be sure to be here and absolutely family friendly. Did you come last year to that, Marcelo?
I did not. I play Ultimate Disc competitively. So I typically have tournaments and stuff like the weekend of Reformation Sunday, so I'm gone
So you
out of
won't be here
town.
next week?
Mm-mm.
Oh, man, that's a bummer. That's okay, no problem. The first 3 weeks of November, and I'll send a handout as well. We're transitioning into some Christian education opportunities, focusing on legacy. The first Sunday, there's going to be a luncheon, and signups are available for that now. And we're especially important to me is for young adults to
And
participate.
for me too.
Excuse me.
I said, for me too, I want the younger people in our congregation
Yes.
to get this education.
And it's not just about
I'm trying to
leaving.
get my son to come to church.
It's not just about leaving financial legacy, but about ensuring that we have powers of attorneys, guardianship papers, those things lined up. We have a special speaker on the first Sunday, a different special speaker on the second Sunday, especially talking about estates and wills. And
And legacy now, how you can be working on your legacy now.
right. And then the third one, and I think if you're available for that one, Marcel, I know it'll certainly, you'll appreciate that. I'm going to do a workshop on how to write our statement of faith and how to begin the process of beginning to articulate what is it that you believe as a part of putting down on paper for your family to have available, so that they, as a testament to your faith, for them to hold on to when you are no longer around. Then in the December, we're still working on the Colton is going to do 4 weeks of classes for December. I'm pretty excited about. I know he did. He's
For Sunday school.
he'll do 4 weeks at Sunday school. I'm excited about that. And then for the season of Epiphany leading up to Lent, I think through the season of Lent, I'm doing what could be determined as a new members class, but it's specifically a Reformed theology, Presbyterian deep dive. I think the title is something like "Why Are Presbyterians the Way They Are?" Class, and I think it certainly will be a good class for anyone who are not native speakers of Presbyterianism, but also very accessible for those who are Presbyterians, and they will not find it pedestrian in that regard. So good stuff coming up. Stay tuned, stay connected, and let's get on with our football day. Let's pray. Gracious God, thank you for our time together, and send us out into the day to enjoy it. And as the seasons change and we prepare for what's next, lead us, O Holy Spirit. Help us to have mindsets of generosity, mindsets with visions of hope, visions of love that is to be shared. Stir us and help us to see what we have to offer. In the name of Christ our Lord, we pray. Thanks, Marcelo.
Thank you.
I don't think
Bye.